The Sharp Way is a show where answers, solutions, and common ground can be found so that together we can forge a new way forward. The Sharp Way is the way to mutual respect, where no one has to convert to be heard, because you can be as liberal or as conservative as you want, as long as you aren't forcing your beliefs on others. Welcome to Sharp Way Radio.
Oh, yes. It is Larry Sharpe here on Sharpway Radio, WYSL, Rochester, New York. So happy that you're giving me a small chunk of your afternoon. And if you want to call in, you can. 585 346 3000 is the number. And I was thinking this week about all the news that I've heard about New York, things that the governor is trying to do and the mayor is talking about, all these important things. And I started thinking about New York City, where I live, now here in Queens. But as a youngster, I lived in Manhattan and in the Bronx. So I've lived all over New York City, not in Brooklyn. Been there, though. Haven't lived there, though. Staten Island, too. Haven't lived there, though. But I started thinking about some of my earlier memories. And I'm going to date myself, and some of you may remember this. But years ago, one of the very popular pop singers was a soul singer named Barry White. Amazing voice, awesome soul singer. And my father and mother loved him. And when I was a little kid, probably 6 years old, they decided they wanted to go to a Barry White concert. And they were going to bring me. I still have this memory, probably 5 or 6 years old. My father went and got me a special outfit that I could have when we went to the concert, like a little suit. I was like 5 years old. I had a big old afro. I know some of you who look at me go, you had an afro? I did. Had a big old afro and a little cool suit. This is the early 70s, so you can imagine the wide collar and the whole deal. My dad had his suit on. My mom got all dressed up, and we went to the Barry White concert. It was great. We actually went to a restaurant. I'm trying to remember, was it before or after? It's been 50 years. I don't remember, but it's something like, I think it was before. But we went to a restaurant, we got new clothes, and we saw the Barry White concert. It was amazing. So good. But it wasn't just that as the the larger memories come to my brain. I also remember as a youngster, maybe 7 or 8 years old, living in the Bronx, right across the street from Yankee Stadium. And in those days, the bleachers were very cheap, $1.50 to go into the bleachers. So my father would give me $5, which was a lot of money back then. He would say, I don't want to see you this weekend. Goodbye. And I would leave. I was probably 7 or 8, running around New York City on my own, no chaperone, 7 or 8 years old. I think we know how that works. If you're my age, is how it used to be. So I had $5. With $5, I could grab my buddy if he had some cash too. Hope he had a little bit. And at 10 a.m., we would sit outside and wait for the baseball players to come into Yankee Stadium. They would come early, like 10, 11 o'clock. They'd also have to come in because practice started at 11. So this is back in the day. I don't know if it's still true, but that's what used to happen. So 10 o'clock, we went outside and get autographs, autographed baseballs, autographed paper, whatever, of all the Yankees, and then whatever other team they were playing. We got all kind of autographs. That'd be about an hour we kill. Then we go into the game early, $1.50, go into the bleachers, and we still had a little bit of money for some candy, which we usually would buy before at the local store and then hide it to get on in, right? So we'd all head on in with some candy in our pockets and $1.50 ticket, and then we'd watch the practice. We watched the other team practice, the Yankees practice. Then the game would start at 1. We'd eat our candy. That was our lunch because we had breakfast before we left. Candy was our lunch. Watch the rest of the game. Game ends around 4 or so. Head home, talk, laugh, joke, hang out with my buddy, maybe get some more candy. Head home for dinner. Life is good. I had enough money to do that twice. Yankees, Saturdays and Sundays if they had 2 home games. My parents saw me about 9:30 and then again at 5. And that was it. Life was good. But I also remember getting a bit older and going to a Rockefeller Christmas show. The Rockettes. Watching them and loving it. Buying overpriced hot dogs from the hot dog guy, dirty water dogs, and enjoying an amazing show with my mom. I thought it was great. Also, I remember maybe 12 years old or so going to the Statue of Liberty with a bunch of friends of mine, probably 6 or 7 of us. And we went to the top. You could go to the top of the Statue of Liberty, look outside, the whole deal. Again, we had lunch, was from vendors, street vendors. Good stuff, good kid memories here in New York City. But as I got older, I still have good memories. My wife and our first date was at a real Greek restaurant, literally, like the guys are from Greece. Greek restaurant. It's over 20 years ago now. I remember my buddy having a bachelor party for him, which was multiple, let's just say, risque comedy clubs throughout Manhattan. I remember as I got a bit older, taking a walking tour of Wall Street and seeing all the history of Wall Street, what happened in the 1700s, 1800s, all of those things. But I also remember people trying to make it here, friends of mine, and how many of them did off-Broadway plays or one-man shows, I'm using air quotes, to try to make it. Most didn't, but some did. And then when I had kids, I still have kids, but when they were little, taking them to see the Nutcracker or allowing them to go off on their own to go see Phantom of the Opera here in Manhattan. And then little things that I enjoyed, like Knicks games, Ranger games, more Yankee games. Spending money, spending time, all those things. You're probably saying to yourself, Larry, why are you telling me any of these stories about your childhood? Why do I care, right? Why are you telling me these stories? Because if you notice, every story talked about me and friends and or family going someplace in New York City, spending money, lots of it, often overpriced, but not complaining, happy to do it, to enjoy New York City culture and not caring if it's a bit more expensive. And many things I talked about are only in New York City. You can't get them someplace else. It's here or you don't get it. So why do you care? Because if we're going to save this city, it's not going to be because we cut taxes here or there, which we should, but we won't. It's not going to be because we passed more laws about business or whatever the case may be. It's not going to be that either. Culture is the answer for this city. Culture is the only thing that can stop this city from dying. Nothing else can. Business is leaving. People are leaving. Finance is leaving. Our commercial businesses here are dying. I'm not going to come here for a job anymore. I can get a job someplace else. I can work remotely. I can do all those things. I don't have to live here anymore. Unless I want the culture. Then I have to either live here or visit. One of the two. And I'm happy with either. And you might say, well, Larry, you're sitting there talking about New York City. I don't live in New York City. Why do I care about New York City? I'll tell you why, particularly if you live in New York State, but not New York City. Because if we have a whole bunch of tourists coming here, buying expensive hot dogs and expensive tickets, that's less taxes you got to pay. That's why you should care. The more tourists who come to this city, the less taxes you will pay. That's how it works. And they're not coming because we're not focusing on it. We're not pushing that in this city, which is what we should be pushing. So now we all going to have to pay more. The entire state suffers. Why should New York State care about New York City? Because it's a cash cow that we are not milking. That's why. We should be happy, but we're not. New York City people aren't happy. New York City people aren't happy about New York City either. This is lose-lose. It should be win-win. We focus on the culture that is New York City. And I brought everything up I showed you, from pop music culture of the 70s, but still today, sports, classic, right? Classic music, opera, whatever you like, history, Broadway shows, here, New York City. If we don't take advantage of this, we are taking our golden goose and we are killing it. This is where the money can come into this state. This is how we can build this city up to where tourists can't wait to come in, spend a bunch of money, and love it. No, there was no point where I was spending this money that I was unhappy about it. I still remember these stories 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. I still remember the stories, worth every penny I spent. Or my parents spent too. I'm sure for them too. But still, worth it all. Culture is our answer. It's not more laws. It's not more rules. It's not trying to bribe business to come back here. If we want to save New York City so we can support this state, culture, culture, culture. That will get people to visit and people to stay to work the culture and to bring more revenue into this state. Am I wrong? Do you have some cool New York City story? Tell me. 585-346-3000. Larry Sharpe, WYSL Rochester, New York, Sharpe Way Radio, back with your calls and your chat after the break.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech?
Hey, by the way, my 2 cents, since I have a home in the Poconos, when I say about Pennsylvania, you don't have to pay to go into the state parks.
Just like the fact that SimpleTech is...
Oh, yeah. I mean, at least, I don't know if it's all state parks, but I know we've gone up like Camelback Mountain. When we've been in Erie, we've gone to Presque Isle State Park. There's no cost to drive into the park.
Customers achieve their goals.
Now, granted, obviously there's costs if you want to camp there or whatnot. But, you know, what kills me is even in New York State, you know, we pay taxes and we have to pay to go in Letchworth Park, even if you just want to drive to see the foliage. So, you know, it's just, you know, just another case where, you know, they're missing the boat. They like pushing I Love New York, come here, but, you know, come here, but bring your checkbook.
Inside the Taylor Laboratories.
Hey, Tony, what you doing? A little experiment, Zach. Look what I have under the microscope.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then, yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, it's just, yeah, I hate to say something negative about your city, but I was there back in the Giuliani years, and the last time I was there, walking through the streets made me think that if I want the New York City street experience, I can just go in any gas station bathroom. It really, it stinks. It stinks in a lot of areas.
It's important to preserve freedom of speech and to promote a truth-based society for our families. Try something different in 2023. The WYSL stations can grow your business, professional practice, or organization, so allocate your ad dollars here. Take advantage of a huge audience.
Well, yeah, family friendly. Family have the for the most part, prior to Biden's economy, the disposable income.
346-3000 to advertise.
Sharpe Way Radio on the WYSL stations.
Yes, it is Larry Sharpe here on Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL in Rochester, New York. You want to call? Tell me your New York City story. Happy to hear it. 585-346-3000. Now, I guess what triggered this entire story that I wanted to bring up was what everyone seems to be focusing on, right? What the mayor is focusing on, what the governor is focusing on. I'm sure many of you, if you haven't, you will know now, have heard that our governor is considering a ban on all tobacco products. A ban on tobacco products? Think about where your head must be to even contemplate that. If I was governor and one of my staff brought that idea up to me, I would say to them immediately, why are you on my staff? That you would even imagine that, one, I'd want to do that, And even if for some insane reason, if I did want to do that, why would that be a priority right now? So of course I wouldn't even want to do it. But even if you had some logic that you wanted to argue with me on why we should do it, why would we worry about that now? But that's what they're talking about. And again, to be forward, I don't want to punish the governor any more than she deserves, and she deserves a lot. But she hasn't said this to be true. So maybe it's just her team talking. Could be that. My point is, who is on your staff that would even be bringing this up? I can't imagine someone on my staff going, hey, Governor Sharpe, let's ban some more stuff. I mean, you would have to have some insane answer that I just hadn't thought of at all to imagine that I want to do that. But they are. The answer is more laws to punish. More laws to punish. That's not the issue. The issue is, how do I get more New Yorkers to stay here and not leave, number one. And number two, how to get more people to come here to enjoy the glory of New York. Now, I brought up New York City. I live in New York City, and New York City can be a cash cow. But so can upstate New York. Right? The first time I ever went fishing when I was a kid, upstate New York. First time I went camping, upstate New York. Where we used to go, my family used to go to hang out. Bear Mountain, and believe it or not, gonna sound crazy, Niagara Falls. Totally opposite parts of the state. But yes, that's where I went as a kid. Bear Mountain, which is more downstate for those of you who don't know, and then Niagara Falls, which is basically the most western part of the state. So both of those. Again, awesome. If we could focus on people showing up, coming here to enjoy. Because if more tourists come to New York State, then there's more jobs for people who live here. It literally is that common sense. But we focus on everything other than that. That's the thing that drives me crazy. I hear it constantly. Well, what about this thing? What about that thing? Okay, are other things important? They are. Other things are important. But why would you destroy the vaping industry? Then try to destroy the tobacco industry? Try to ban menthol cigarettes? Why are you making life harder in a state that people are leaving? But we keep doing it. And that's why I brought this up. The idea that we would even imagine, focus on banning more things. You might say to yourself, but Larry, you don't understand. Tobacco kills people, right? It's bad for people. Okay, yes, this is an accurate statement. And to be very clear, there is not one person who is currently smoking who doesn't know that. And they have made their choice. Okay, some of you decide to ride motorcycles. It's dangerous. And you know that, but you've made your choice. Some of you decide to have some personal encounters with others that you shouldn't have. That's dangerous. But you know that, and you do it anyway. And that's okay. If I don't want you to smoke, and I would like you all to not smoke, it's not healthy. I hope you don't smoke. But if I want that, and I care so much, then I have every right to start a campaign to try to convince you that it's bad and to stop. That's my right. I have freedom of speech. I can do so. I have no right to physically stop you in any way, shape, or form. If I care that much, I'll do my campaign. Hopefully you'll listen to me and you'll stop smoking. Awesome. More importantly, it's your life. And secondarily, this is the lifeblood of people who are actually trying to make money locally here. Think about how much money the local shop makes selling tobacco products. But Larry, it's illegal or it's dangerous or whatever it is. Then they'll go to the black market. So now I just took that small shop owner who is a legal shop owner trying to make money in his local community, feeding his family, helping out his kids and his friends, living his life. And I'm going to push him into the black market because that's what's going to happen. That's the second thing we're doing in New York City, is attacking tobacco shops and putting them under and putting them in jail. So now a guy who's a regular guy or gal trying to feed his family, now he goes to the black market. When he goes to the black market, what happens? Violence, pain, taxes, cops, all bad. Drugs, everything. Everything that we say is bad happens right there because the government made it happen. Let people buy what they want to buy. If you don't like it, don't buy it. If it bothers you, start a campaign to convince people to not do it. Let people make their choices. I can't tell you how important this is at both a principled level, but more importantly, at a human level. How is this state or this nation going to grow if we can't get small businesses up and running? All we ever do is complain. Big tech this, big tech that, big business this, lobbyists own that, big banks own that. Okay, so let's have some competition. Let's let the little guys start winning. Little guys should be winning too. But we don't do that. We focus instead on let's ban products. Let's shut small businesses down. Let's fight. It's a bad idea. Let me grab a couple of comments if I can, a couple from the chat if I could. All righty. Grace says, you could spend a summer in the New York City libraries alone. You know, I'd forgotten that, Grace. You're right. We used to spend the days in the libraries. Now you still could, but not as much. But yeah, absolutely. You could go back there and spend days in the library, 100%. There were things you could do in New York. And you might say, well, Larry, that's not spending any money. Yeah, there is, because if you went to the library, and Grace will tell you this, you got a hot dog or something from the vendor or whatever was the thing. You got a hamburger, hot dog, cotton candy, pretzel, whatever was the thing. So you're supporting some guy hustling who's selling pretzels or who's selling hot dogs. So you ate there. And you had to pay, back then it was like 25 cents, I forgot what it was, for the subway. So you paid for the subway too, whatever the 50 cents was, whatever, and you bought something. Now you add 1 million kids. That's a lot of money coming into the system. Absolutely. Frank says, how sad is it that I recently walked into a Dwayne Reed in Manhattan and found out that half the merchandise was locked up? Yes. Look, there were many tough mayors that we had, all of them doing good and bad. I mean, no, that's not true. Most of them doing good and bad. De Blasio doing only bad. He was clearly the worst mayor, even worse than David Deakins. And David Deakins was bad. De Blasio was worse than that. So he did only bad. No, you know what? I'm going to give De Blasio one good thing. I always try to find something good. De Blasio was an absolutely horrible mayor, but he did one thing good. He was decent with the Department of Buildings in getting things built. So see, Frank, I found something decent to say about even de Blasio. So anyway, but my point being, the crime issue and the image of crime and actual crime is terrible. What do I mean by that? Violent crime in New York City actually isn't that bad relative to other big cities. So I got to be clear on that, relative to other big cities. So the odds of you getting beat up or killed in New York City are actually less than if you're in Chicago, Philadelphia. So relatively. But the biggest problem that we're having right now is what you just brought up, Frank. Shoplifting. Everywhere. Taking. It's insane. And what happens? Because we can't stop the people from shoplifting. In New York City, you can't. If you try to stop them, you go to jail. I'm not joking. So you can't stop them. Because you can't stop them, they keep taking. So now the stores start going away. And now the rest of us pay. The convenience that there is to living in New York City lifestyle. And again, for those of you who lived here, Grace, you may have also, I'm not sure, but I think you did. Then you know, the glory of the lifestyle is you cross the street, there's your baker. You cross the street, there's your dentist. You cross the street, there's your so-and-so. Convenience, you just walk everywhere. That's the glory of living in a city. That's, of all the pain, you take that as a joy. But what about when you can't have that anymore? Frank, you're right. We have screwed this up. We have to let people protect their own property. As crazy as that sounds, you protect your own property, this changes. New York City is focused on not stopping criminals. Don't worry about that. Let people keep their own property. Am I wrong? Let me know. 585-346-2000. Larry Sharpe, Sharpe Radio, WYSL, Rochester, New York. Back with your questions and the chat after the break.
For truth and freedom.
WYSL.
AM 1040 Avon Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, and FM 95.5 Spencerport.
See the new models, new technology, and a new way of buying at Ralph Honda. The 2023 Hondas are fuel efficient, spacious, and sporty with something for every Honda lover. Customize yours at ralphhonda.com or in our showroom. Find your next Honda at Ralph Honda.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
What a crazy couple of years we've had. Everybody's fighting. Inflation is causing all kinds of havoc. We have people on television and on radio telling us how much we should hate other people because they think differently than you do. We all need to sit back for a moment and just take a breath. Remember what we like about others, not what makes us mad about them. Most times I feel like we all want what's best for our families in America, but we just have different ways of going about it. My mother had a way of just taking a simple pleasure, like taking a bite from her favorite sandwich and saying, this is good. For me, the Orioles may have a winning season. This is good. Oh, if you feel you want to talk about your current investment planning, estate planning, or life insurance, we're right in Penfield at AM Ginsberg Advisory Group, 585-377-4720. I feel better already.
Securities offered through Securities America, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through Securities America Advisors, Inc., AM Ginsberg Advisory Group, and Securities America Companies are separate entities.
Men, if you believe with us that the 73% fatherless homes in our city is at the root of the violence and crime in our streets, here's your opportunity to be a part of the solution. Attend the Fatherhood Initiative Conference 4.0 on April 29th. Come and be equipped to mentor a young man who is without a healthy father figure. The Fatherhood Initiative Conference 4.0, Saturday, April 29th, 7:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., Youth for Christ, Rochester, 1 Favor Street. Find out more or register at fathersrock.org.
If you are dealing with chronic pain, Dr. Sharpe Patel is now available in the Southern Tier. Serving Noyes, Jones, and St. James hospitals, Dr. Patel is an experienced pain management specialist. He offers steroid injections and many other procedures and has a special interest in the lumbar and cervical spine. Don't let chronic pain impact your quality of life. Ask your doctor for a referral or call 585-243-0150.
It's Turnbull tune-up time for your air conditioning system. Whether you have an attic system, a ductless wall mount system, or even a conventional central air conditioning unit attached to your furnace, call Turnbull today to schedule your appointment to save energy and money. If you need a new system, Turnbull can provide a free estimate to meet your comfort needs and budget. Call Turnbull today, 343-2005.
You'll be comfortable with the best. Turnbull Heating and Air.
In Avon and Livingston County, call 226-6180.
At Tom Walls, we've been making small batch root beer in each of our restaurants since 1955. I'm Carly. I work at the Canandaigua location. You know, somewhere in the world, the best root beer is made. And maybe, just maybe, it's Tom Walls.
Tom Walls.
Because of Open Door Mission and the Restored Hope, I have a full-time job now, and my kids are in school and they're safe and we're all together. I just see victory.
Go to opendoormission.com.
At Ralph Honda, we know car buying has changed, and so have we. Visit ralphhonda.com to value your trade, get instant credit approval, schedule service, even build and customize your next car. It's a whole new way of doing business, online and at Westridge Road. Ralph Honda.
Sharpe Way Radio on the WYSL stations.
Oh, yes, it is Larry Sharpe here, WYSL, Rochester, New York. Sharpe Way Radio. So happy to have you here for a small chunk of your afternoon. You have a New York City story or New York State story. I'm open either way. 585-346-3000. You know, I've been getting a lot of people in the chat talking about their stories about personal choices and such. And I agree. And I don't have to agree with your personal choices, but if you want to do it, you're going to do it. We found out prohibition doesn't work. It just creates more of a black market. And now people who wouldn't normally be doing bad things, I mean, some people are going to do bad things, but people who wouldn't normally be doing bad things are now doing bad things. I don't want that to happen. Now, I guess the biggest part is I feel almost like we never learn, right? Grace brings up the idea of Eric Garner, the man who was killed, choked up by the cops for selling illegal cigarettes. So we're thinking, let's make cigarettes illegal because that won't happen again. I have an idea. Let's stop making cops do things like that. How about cops go after bad guys? How about cops go after the people stealing stuff out of the Walmarts and out of the Dwayne Reeds? Why don't we do that instead of worrying about whether there's some guy selling loose cigarettes or not? I think that might be a good idea. I like it. And I would bet that cops would be happier going after bad guys than trying to become basically an enforcer of the state to make money, to be a profit center. I'm going to gamble and say this. I'm going to be bold and say cops would rather get bad guys than be a profit center. Maybe it's me. And, well, I got to tell you, there probably is a cop out there who'd rather be a profit center. But I'm going to say I bet the vast majority of cops would rather be getting bad guys than being some kind of profit center for the corporate greed of the state. I think that's not the right answer. Call me crazy, but I think that is the way we should be thinking. You know, Sam brings up, he says, I wish the state would focus on catalytic converter theft and violent crimes instead of the weird ESG stuff or increasing the police state. Yeah. You know, people often think that I'm somehow anti-cop because I don't want more cops. I'm not anti-cop. I want cops doing the right thing. And again, I'll say it again. I think they'd rather be doing the right thing. Are you saying cops doing the wrong thing when they beat up Eric Garner for cigarettes? Yes, that's the wrong thing. But what I also know is the cops didn't decide that. There wasn't some cop said, you know what? Let's go beat up some guy. They didn't say that. They were ordered by somebody to go do that. So how about we don't order them to do that? I think you'd have happier people and happier cops. This is win-win. I agree with you completely. This is a problem, and you're touching it perfectly, Sam. Whenever you talk about the concept of property rights in any way, shape, or form, even that phrase, it comes across as either elitist or you care about, big business, any of that. No, your body is your property. Your business is your property. Your car, your catalytic converter is your property. And if you're wealthy and someone steals your catalytic converter, I don't mean to be flippant, but if you're wealthy, you really don't care. Why? You probably lease your car anyway, so you're going to call somebody to come get it. If you're wealthy, you can cancel your appointment because you're wealthy. You can just push it away to another time. You'll get over it. It'll suck for a day or two, but you'll get over it. What if you're not? What if you're middle class or working poor? That catalytic converter You can't go to work now. You might lose a day of work. You can't afford that. You might lose 2-3 days of work. You can't afford that. Or you got to get a cab or bug your friend and pay him some money to take you to work. Well, you just lost half your day's pay. And then how are you going to repair that car now? What if it's a used car? And if you're working poor middle class, it's probably a used car or an older car. How are you going to fix that? The government will tell you, particularly our government here in New York State, how much they care about the poor people and they care about the working poor and the middle class. But Sam's point of catalytic converter literally attacks working poor and middle class. If you're very poor, you don't have a car. But if you're working poor or middle class, you have a car. Probably only one. Even if you have a family, you probably only have one if you have a car. Your catalytic converter gets stolen, you're in trouble. It's a violent crime against you. You're in trouble. You have to go to a hospital? If you're wealthy, you take a leave of absence because you're wealthy. You'll get over it. You have good insurance. You'll be fine. It'll suck again. You got a violent crime. It sucks. You're traumatized. I got it. Bad for you. You're working poor middle class, 4 times worse. 4 times worse. Because all the side effects are doubled and tripled and quadrupled. I'm sorry, I went long on this, Sam, but your point is just so valid. I want to keep bringing it up. If the state government cares so much, they will be focused on property crimes because wealthy people have a lot more property and a lot more recourse when they lose their property. They often have insurance, not always, but often have insurance. They can recover much faster, much easier from this kind of theft. They can recover. The people who own the stores, the massive people like, Dwayne Reed's, they could just shut the store down and go someplace else. And that's happening here in New York City. You might go, well, then who cares? They're a massive corporation.
Rochester.
Why do I care? I do care because now that's one less choice for the people in that neighborhood. That's one less choice. Yet again, the poor and the middle class are the ones who are affected. Grab a call if I can. Who am I grabbing?
This is Lou from Rochester.
Lou,
how are you, Lou? What's going on, my friend?
All right, good to talk to you again there, Larry. Well, maybe next time. Maybe next time you'll become governor. How about that?
Maybe. I hope so.
Listen, I was listening to today's show, and you're mentioning about the catalytic converters, and regardless if it's a catalytic converter or what Rodney Dangerfield labeled as a widget in that movie Back to School.
Yep.
It shouldn't really matter what it is, all right, that's getting stolen from you or taken from you, whether you're on the other side of this, of course, if you're the person that's actually being criminalized on this. So should it really matter, all right, if the person is wealthy or if the person is poor? All right. The point of the matter is, all right, is that it's unmeasurable. All right. Crime is crime. And it's almost like
Lou,
saying,
let me just clarify this real fast if I could. I completely agree with you. It should matter. My point was, Sam was bringing this up also. It was a hypocrisy point I was bringing up. You have the single party Democratic run state of New York saying they care about the poor, but not focusing on issues that affect them. That was the point. I just want to make that clear.
Okay. All right. Well, my point is that, I agree with you, all right, to a certain level. I think a lot of people would. But where I differ is where it minimizes the crime basically because, well, hey, look, that guy is wealthy. So you know what? It don't hurt him so much, all right? No, it should never, ever minimize, all right, the crime at all, all right? Because the victim behind it, whether they're wealthy or they're not, it's still a strong inconvenience for them either way.
Yep.
All right.
You're right.
So, it's
Lou,
almost
I'll
like
go one
saying,
step further. It isn't just it's a strong inconvenience. It's immoral. You should not be taking people's things, period. Whether they're super wealthy or super poor, you should not be taking people's things, period, unless they want you to, right? Then they give it away to you, and that's fine. But I would say it's immoral regardless. And the problem is, and this again is the point I was trying to bring up, in our society, actually it's the point I guess you're bringing up. In our society,
We have another call on hold.
That because someone is wealthy or it's a big company, that somehow theft is okay. And I would argue it isn't. My point just was that if you're poorer, it affects you harshly.
Right. Absolutely.
There we go. Thanks, Lou. I appreciate it. So is Lou right? Does he bring up a good point? I think he did bring a good point up. I think either way, it is immoral. And often our society says, if it is a big company or wealthy person, it's okay, they can handle it. It's still wrong. If you're trying to say a poor person's affected more, that's often true, but it doesn't make it less wrong. Let me know what you think. 585-346-3000. Larry Sharpe on Sharpe Radio, WYSL, Rochester, New York. Back after the break.
Your business relies on computers and
Okay, we have Roger from Nassau.
Unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovation should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Don't hate your home. Pick up the phone and call Wise Home Energy. The Energy Star Contractor of the Year, Wise Home Energy would like to thank our clients and employees for this prestigious award. For the 6th year in a row, thank you for choosing Wise Home Energy for solving your ice issues, improving hot and cold rooms, and reducing high energy bills. So don't hate your home. Pick up the phone and call Wise Home Energy at 585-270-5836 today.
With incompetent, devious Washington and Albany leadership and a corrupt corporate media that uses news and social to control and mislead, it's important to preserve freedom of speech and to promote a truth-based society for our families. Try something different in 2023. The WYSL stations can grow your business, professional practice, or organization, so allocate your ad dollars here. Take advantage of a huge audience, entertained and informed by leading conservative thought. Affordable and effective. The WYSL stations, the voice of liberty. Call 346-3000 to advertise.
Sharpe Radio on the WYSL stations.
Yes, Larry Sharpe is here. Sharpe Radio, WYSL, Rochester, New York. So happy that you're giving me a small chunk of your afternoon. We've been talking all of a sudden, which is great, about the effects of crime on New York City, across the state, on people coming into your city, spending money, but also how it affects the poor, how it affects the middle class, how it affects the wealthy. I'm going to grab a call if I can. I'm grabbing Roger from Nassau. How are you, Roger?
Doing good. Can you hear me?
I can. What's going on?
Oh, what about now?
Yes, I can hear you. Keep going.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'm going to say this real quick because I wrote something out. See if I can read it real quick. New York State is a lot like Nevada. No one goes to Nevada to go to Carson City or Reno. No one comes to New York to go to Nassau, Suffolk, Albany, Schenectady, Birmingham, and Rochester. Yes, I went to Bear Mountain as a kid also.
Yes.
Tobacco ban is a cry for a win Poco is desperate for. People do vice to cope with stress. Why are people stressed? Because they are in economic distress and under income inequality duress. The problem is not cultural. The problem is we, the average New Yorkers, lack of political empowerment in our government. How about more laws to empower the people instead of disenfranchising the people. These people who are leaving this state, these people are the same people responsible. These people who are leaving are the same people responsible for paying workers below the cost of living. I am not crying for Wall Street wanting to leave. I say let them leave. North Dakota has a public bank with no Wall Street, and they always operate in surplus mode. New York City and New York State has always been too expensive for its residents, and they are always gentrifying poor neighborhoods instead of improving their conditions. So sorry, I am not sad they're leaving. I am looking on starting with a new, clean slate, building a new New York upon the ashes of the old, because with that comes opportunity. Well, I always look at the glass half, not empty, but full. What we need is a state public bank, local public banks, and direct democracy via the ability to place our own initiatives on the ballot.
Let me touch these things, Roger. You threw a lot at me. Let me touch some of these. First part, parts that I completely agree with. Right, I do want a new New York. I'm with you. I like the idea of co-op and public banking, but not just that. You brought up gentrification. Gentrification's a problem when you have a bunch of renters. But if you instead turn state housing, public housing, into rent-to-own housing, to where the individuals begin to pay the rent to own the home, they don't care about gentrification, because now if someone buys the place, they get a check, or they decide to not sell it, right? When you have an ownership mindset, all that changes. So the goal, I think, is not to have Wall Street leave, because if Wall Street leaves, it's just less taxes, but instead to incentivize Wall Street when they're throwing their money around, throw it around to people so that they can begin to have ownership also. Incentivize Wall Street to stay here, and instead of buying properties now, which is what they're doing, and just making it rentals, let them buy it in New York State, and whenever they sell the property, literally give them no income tax on that sale if they made it rent to own. So now the person who's renting has ownership of that place. They can sell to that person, pay no taxes on it, they'll be happy, and now people are owning homes. This is how I keep Wall Street here, get them to invest, and get average people to own homes. There are ways of making that happen. I also agree with you on the banking issue. We should be supporting local credit unions left and right. Local credit unions, which is basically co-op banking, allows people locally to support local businesses. 100% yes. My only problem at what you said, Roger, is I don't want Wall Street to leave. I want that money. I want it to incentivize people in the private market for more ownership. I think if we do that, we get both. Did that make sense at least?
All right, so let me just finish saying, ability to place our own initiatives on the ballot to ratify our own amendments to the state constitution and pass and repeal our own laws. Who better to serve us than us? Who better to govern us than us? Also, another good thing regarding de Blasio is that he ended qualified immunity. Cops going after shoplifters is not what we need. They steal because they suffer from income inequality and poverty. Solve the poverty, income inequality issue, shoplifting goes down. I am not in favor of police, the way police neighborhoods as they currently do. But what I am for is community policing with an independent community board to oversee the government's enforcement arm, which we call the police.
I would be, let me cover that piece too. I think you have a valid point in your saying they don't have economic opportunity and that's why they're shoplifting. However, there's a big however here. The image is that these people are shoplifting because they can't eat. That's not true, and you know that. They're shoplifting as a business model. Now, my point is, make growing businesses easier, and you're right, they won't shoplift. The people who are shoplifting, I know it, you know them too. They don't want to be doing something illegal. They believe it is the right to do it, that they can do it, so let's do it, and they're selling all those goods. This is a business model for them. Well, let's make it easier for them to do it legally. Let's allow them to be able to work on their own legally. Stop this licensing. Stop those are the problems. Stop the cops from harassing them when they're trying to run a business. You will find a whole lot less people shoplifting. You're correct. But if I got to put a cop in a Walgreens or a cop in a Duane Reade versus having a cop on the street beating some guy up for selling cigarettes, keep the cop in a Duane Reade. What's wrong with that, Roger?
Well, like I said, I want to make it the way we have community policing and have an independent board that oversees the police. Because a lot of times these police are not from the neighborhood that they are patrolling. Like a lot of NYPD.
Also true. Valid point.
They live out where I live in Nassau and Suffolk County. They have no familiarity with the people that are in that community.
It's a valid point. And for those who don't know, most New York City police officers do not live in New York City. Roger is correct. Most don't. Yes, that is a problem. I agree. But again, the same point is, if we made it easier for them to live in New York City, more of them would. If we made it better for them, incentivize them to live in the city. And I think we can do that, right? We can do it that way to incentivize them to live in New York City. And more of them would. I do agree. More cops should live in New York City. I agree. More New York City cops should live in New York City. I also think community policing is a very good idea. For those who don't know, I actually had a plan to help reform policing, which included in every aspect a community part. I think Roger's correct. Community policing is going to be a better way of policing, hands down. Agree completely.
Also,
but still, you should put a cop in Duane Reade. That's all I'm saying.
Also, public banks, an insurer, a replacement FDIC for a credit union. So instead of credit unions having to be backed up by FDIC, they would be backed up by a public bank. So a public bank is not the same thing as cooperative banking. It acts as
I'm saying public banks support the co-ops. Yes, I'm agreeing with you.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
But my entire reason for wanting a public bank is to support co-op banking, because I think that's the key. I think co-op banking solves a lot of problems that people don't realize.
I also have a plan for, not that I'm running for anything, but a plan to have public banking have a, I think I already told you that. Yeah. When I saw you, a lending program specifically for startup co-ops and to lend to workers who wish to buy their company from the owner.
Don't worry about that. Roger, I got to let you run. I got to grab some other people. I appreciate it. Thank you for the call. So I think he has some valid points. And I know some people feel like, wait a minute, is he saying that he's giving an excuse for people to shoplift? I don't think he's excusing. I think he's explaining it. I think so, at least. And I'm saying there's something valid to that issue. It doesn't mean we should allow it. I don't mind putting a cop in Duane Reade and helping people to have easier chances at having work, easier chances at starting businesses. This is what it is. I know that some people will tell you they're shoplifting because they're starving. That's not accurate. I don't mean to be cruel. They're shoplifting as a business model. That's true. If you go into the subways in New York City, you will see them literally selling the stuff that they stole from Duane Reade. Literally, they stole from Duane Reade. It's downstairs in the subway. They're now selling it to you. That's a real thing. It's a business model. I understand it. This goes back to the earlier caller who said just because the people are wealthy or something, it's okay. It's not okay to steal. It's immoral. Let's help people, right? Libertarians, don't hurt people or take their stuff. Let's focus on that, and we can all be happier. Thank you for giving me a chunk of your afternoon. I will see you all very soon.